Hey, beautiful people. How are we doing? I am Anitra and Lawson, storyteller, producer, educator, and content creator. He is Dr. Andre Eugene Evans. I want to put his middle name out there.
Why you gotta put, no, don't be putting my whole government name out there.
The brother I never wanted. Say what's up to the people.
What's up, people?
You guys
we don't know
that.
for certain that's my middle name. We do not know that for certain.
Google it. So we are the Savage Siblings, and this podcast is all about us being brutally honest, relentlessly transparent, and unapologetically authentic. And we're so glad that you are rocking with us for another episode. Bro, how's it been going? What you up to?
Work steady. Work is steady. Things are steady in life. This has been an interesting week for me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like God has been putting different personalities in my life. I think he wants me to learn how to deal with different personalities. So he's definitely exposing me to different people who kind of come with different histories and different backgrounds. And I believe that one of the reasons why this is happening, because as God continues to enlarge me and even enlarge us, enlarge family, all that good stuff who's connected to me, I have to have a broader sense of people's realities, or broader sense of humanity. It's a challenge because, I want to be me. I want to be who I've always been. And so there are times where I bump up against a personality that I want to talk to the way I want to talk to. I want to deal with the way that I want to deal with. And so that has been a challenge for the past week. And what I'm realizing is being who I've always been, like who I was raised to be personality wise, it doesn't make me better. It actually makes me smaller.
Interesting.
Because when you're meeting new people and you're getting these new personalities and they come with different backgrounds, if you stay in who you've always been, it actually reduces your reach. In other words,
good.
It makes you smaller. So in other words, if I just be me, some of these new people God's bringing in my life be like, yeah, nah, we done talking with you, or we done interacting with you, which makes my human experience smaller. So I gotta believe. My faith is telling me that the reason why I'm getting introduced to the personality is either A, someone's paying for my patience, and if I find out who that is, we're gonna have a problem. But B, I really believe it's when you expose yourself to different and more people, you actually make yourself better as a person.
Absolutely.
But it's tough because that means you kind of have to expand who you are. And you actually have to tear down some parts of who you've always been. Oof. And my illustration to that is I've got a good friend of mine whose parents redid their kitchen.
Okay.
And as they were having the construction come in, they were tearing down parts of the walls that lead into the living room. And he was so upset. He was like, I told y'all to just redo the kitchen. Why y'all tearing down stuff that's in my living room? Walls are in my living room. And I like what the construction guy said. I don't know what their title is, but the construction dude with the big belt and all the
construction guy and the hard hat.
Right, hard hat. He said, in order to expand your kitchen, I got to tear down some of the frames that have kept your living room as small as it was. I need somebody to hear what I just said.
My.
So here's this moment where he's got to tear down the support system that's kept the living room if they're going to expand the kitchen. So what's kept the living room so small and standard, you got to tear it down so that they can expand the kitchen. And in addition then to building a bigger and better kitchen, your living room is actually going to be better. That's what I feel like God is taking me through right now. I got to tear down personality-wise who you've always been by exposing you to some things you've never experienced so that you'll be better when it comes to humanity. So that's been my week. And
And it is so appropriate for our episode today. So you already laid the foundation, right?
Yeah.
for where we're headed. And it sounds like not just in the producing aspect of the episode, but God was like, I'm going to give you some fodder through experience to actually springboard it forward. So, but you're still smiling on the other end of it. So it sounds
I ain't got no choice. I ain't got no
stretching.
choice. I ain't got no choice.
It's a stretched smile, right?
I thank God we're still wearing masks.
Right.
That's all I'm going to say.
Because underneath, it's like you have no idea what's going on here.
Right.
I love that. I think for me all week, it's been just been recovery. We all have had the sniffles, which, I say recovery, but I think God is like, we're here again. Because a lot of times when you're not feeling well, at least for me and my body and our family here, it's often bad choices. It's diet, poor rest, stress. So it's
lack of
God
exercise.
is like lack of exercise. So God is like, are we still dealing with this, right? But the reason why I say recovery is because it was really funny. Not while you're going through it, but funny to watch how this, and it's just like a pretty mild head cold, but it bounced from everyone in the household.
Right.
So started with your nephew, my son. The sniffles and kind of working through it. And so he had his days where he wasn't feeling great and we had to, make him lay down and go through, the regimen. Then it hit me.
Right.
And I was like I was so impatient with him in terms of recovering.
It's his fault. He should have recovered in his room. Why are you passing this stuff around, brother?
And I'm like, okay, how many days have you, why aren't you sit down, lay down? Now, when I get sick, then of course, I need everyone to have extra grace for me. And all of a sudden, I'm the one that's like, no, this is really bad. Is this how you were feeling, Malachi? Yes.
It feels like death. It feels like death.
You were dealing with this? Oh, man. Right. And then, of course, it unfortunately goes to our mom. And so she's on the mend. So we've all been recovering in our own way at our own pace. And like you said, that fruit of patience, boy, it's real.
It's real.
And so we
it's
had
real.
We had to push through it. But so if I am a little nasally, a little congested, that's me still recovering. And shout out to Dwayne McClendon, our sound post-production supervisor and producer, who's gonna do what he can to make us sound better. But
not us
me, because clearly you sound amazing. Clearly.
Right.
Although I do have a new mic, so shout out to that. So we'll see if that makes things better. But good. So let's go ahead and move into the sound off. You ready for sound off?
I'm ready for sound off.
Sound off segment. Sound off.
Sound off, we're looking at that not all exposure leads to good expansion. We're already starting on this exposure issue. It's funny, we both have Las Vegas stories, right?
Yep.
Shout out to our dad who took us to Las Vegas while I was like 14. And my sister, Nikki, you were like 10 years old, I think. I think
it was younger. I feel like I was like in the third grade, like maybe 8 and 12 or something like that.
Maybe.
But that's the range.
Somewhere around there.
12 for you and 8 for me. But I love the focus of this episode. And Dre, just beautifully, you laid the groundwork in terms of exposure leading to expansion. And we're questioning that in the sound off segment. You know that phrase, all money ain't good money, right? Is all exposure good exposure?
Right.
Like, that's what we wanted to look at. And so when I was thinking about, what are the ways and the experiences that I've had where I experienced something new and it changed my thinking, or it put me in a new, not just mindset, but even started changing my behavior, if you will. And the story that came to mind is, like you mentioned, Las Vegas. So I didn't even know when I was in third grade, 8 years old, and our dad took us on, for us, it was a big trip, right? Like, we're flying on an airplane, we're staying in hotels, we have separate hotel rooms, we have an allowance for kid-oriented gambling. And this was the big Thanksgiving, vacation holiday event for us. Prior to that, I only remember, road trips to visit our grandparents from Kansas to Ohio, maybe a visit to Cowtown, which was in Kansas. It was like a 45-minute drive away in the car.
Shout out to the ICT. Shout out to the ICT, Cowtown.
Cowtown. And so, our traveling experience was, I won't say limited, but, we did what we could. So when we go on this huge Las Vegas Thanksgiving trip and we're on a plane and we're having all this. It was a game changer for me. And we're there. And I remember Excalibur was the hotel, and I think it had just opened maybe a couple years prior. It was brand new. We were breaking it in.
Yeah.
And so, and Circus was there as well, but we were able to do all of our kid-oriented gambling experiences. Because I remember our dad gave us, so this is how old we're dating ourselves here. He gave us each like $60. And I mean, we thought we were millionaire. At least I did. I was like, oh, try me. I was putting that 20 on my forehead, walking through there, looking at the gumballs. Like, I'll take all that, right? And so super excited to be able to have this experience. And so we had the whole weekend. We ate at the buffets. We gambled our little kitty money away. We had bags of treats and things. And I remember coming back, going back to school in Kansas, going back to school on that Monday. And one of the, little projects that our teacher had us do was kind of like a show and tell. And she wanted us to write about and share our Thanksgiving trip. And I remember Dre being so proud, like, I cannot wait to tell y'all what I did.
My story's so dope.
Mine is going to be the best. What you guys did, went to Nana's house and ate some turkey. Like, we were eating Chinese food, in the buffet line with extra MSG and sodium, right? Sodas all day, right? Like, I was excited. And so I'm sharing this story and I'm telling them how we did the kid gambling. And of course, in my mind, the way I envisioned it playing out was by the end, everyone was just going to stand and clap, right? Like very reminiscent of A Christmas Story, right? Right. How excited you are that everyone's going to, this is great, this is amazing. Right. And there were crickets.
A plus.
The echo, right? And there were just crickets. Like everyone just kind of, that hesitant clap. It's kind of like a pause and then a few smatters of clap, and then a few more, right? Like, and I remember thinking, what happened? And I was watching my teacher's face and then some of the other students, and I realized, so it's not ideal to go to Las Vegas for Thanksgiving, or at least in terms of their standards, right? It's cool to travel, like maybe to the Poconos or go somewhere with all of, where all the family can get together and sit by the fireplace. Right. But for them, the idea of Las Vegas didn't represent, I guess quality experience for young kids because of the gambling. And trust me, I remember the fun of spending money, getting candy, eating unlimited, unhealthy buffet food. Right. But I didn't retain the homelessness. I didn't remember all the different things we saw on the street, how dirty it is. The lights really kind of blind you from seeing some of the sadness. And it's funny, as an adult, when I track back to it, I now can remember how ugly it was. Like, I remember seeing grown men clearly devastated by the morning. Like, you could tell that version at 8 a.m. as we were getting breakfast was not a happy thing. That may have been someone who just lost his life savings or just made some bad decisions. But I didn't remember it as a kid, right? Yeah. And so I remember in class feeling like that exposure, while it was life-changing for us and all the way pleasant in terms of the experience, other people felt like, you're teaching your kids what gambling is. Right. There's all these different things that come out of that. And so I felt judged, but I also felt like I'm glad he did take us because I wanted to see more. I wanted to get on an airplane. I wanted to fly more. I wanted to stay in more hotels. Absolutely. I wanted to have that experience. And so that was kind of my takeaway from the Vegas trip. But you were there too. So what was your takeaway?
See, this is why I guess I was 12, because if you were 8, I must have been 12, which makes this even greater of a story.
maybe a little.
I vaguely remember Dad giving us the money, but I do remember the money because I knew I had money in my pocket to spend. And the reason why I knew I had money in my pocket to spend, because as we're walking down the strip and Mom and Dad are walking in front of us slightly, I remember a lady asking me if I wanted to go on a date. And I remember Mom and Dad stopping and turning around. And then they're just looking at me, wondering what I'm going to say. And so I'm looking at her and I'm like, I'm ready to go on a date. And I remember that I wanted to say, yes, I want to go on a date. And I remember either Mom gesturing, but Dad stopping her, or I remember Dad saying, giving me this look like, Do you know what she's really asking you? And I remember Dad kind of leaning in like, you got any money? And I was like, that's how I knew I had money in my pocket. And I'm like ready to take this woman out to one of the buffets, like maybe at the Taj Mahal buffet or at the MGM buffet. I was ready to go on and they had shows. I was ready to take her for dinner and a show.
With your
and I was going to go on a date and I was going to do show and tell myself until I realized what kind of date she was asking. And so it's at that point where at 12 years of age and we're talking about exposure, like, wait a minute. I got solicited by a prostitute at 12.
She'll be your friend.
Right. Like, is this good at 12?
Oh,
is this a good life lesson to have at 12?
Oh,
because now, I can't trust any adult woman at this moment. The teacher asked me, "Hey, Andre, you want some extra credit?" Why? I ain't got no money. Why? My grades are fine. My grades are fine. The lunch lady, Andre, you want some extra square pizza? Why? Why? You listen, I know that. Why? You trying to get a new hairnet? Back up off me.
Right.
Back up off me. So yeah,
that's so funny.
Not all exposure's great exposure. We got to make sure that, we got to make sure exposure is good, but all exposure definitely leads to expansion. Because just like you, it's not just that, I wanted to go see, but in that circumstance, what I really kind of remember taking from that is people are different. Like, because in Kansas, at 12, I didn't run into any women of the night.
That part.
But in Las Vegas, there are women of the night. So now I'm like, well, what kind of people are in Florida? What kind of people in California? What kind of people in Texas? I got answers. All right, Dad, when's the next trip, Dad?
Right.
I got answers. I got questions, and I need answers.
It's so funny because I don't remember that experience for you at all. I mean, clearly I was thinking about my money and the next gumball machine I was going to hit up, but I have no recollection.
At 8 years of age, number one, could you really understand what the conversation was? Because I didn't understand.
Not even.
Dad had to lean in and be like, Andre, that's not what she's really asking for. And I'm like, Dad, don't listen, Big Pimpin'. Let me go on a date. I got this. So,
with your man card.
I don't even know how
I
don't know how the conversation ended. Either Mom or Dad. I don't remember who. Somebody told the young lady he's not interested in a date, and we moved on. And I was a little hurt. Until I understood later what exactly was going down. So I was a little bothered.
I love it. So that's the Vegas situation. And yes, I think we both can agree that not all exposure is always good, especially if it's not monitored. So with that in mind, we definitely want to shout out sponsor for this episode, which is the Savage Sibling Podcast. We're trying to expose you guys to all things good. You guys will let us know in the comments if we get it right.
Right.
But certainly our job here is to be brutally honest, relentlessly transparent, and unapologetically authentic. And this podcast is all about perspective.
Yeah.
Obviously, we discuss all of life's issues from different vantage points, respected experts, educated gurus, spiritual leaders, and the like. But we're not the experts. We're just a brother and sister who love to talk about all facets of life. And we do that through a strong foundation of storytelling, and we tell it through the lens of the sibling perspective. So we're so glad you guys are rocking with us. Remember, it's our goal to keep you entertained.
Absolutely. So, Nick, you ready to get savage?
Let's get savage.
So this episode is actually entitled Bigger Than the Block. And the idea there is we grew up in such a way, Nikki and I, that both of us at some point realized we had to grow past our neighborhood, past our block, even past our city, past our state, because there's so much more that this world has to offer. We both have friends who and family who haven't had a chance to be exposed to a lot. And as a result, they don't have the expansion of culture. They don't have the expansion really of humanity. And so we wanted to highly encourage exposure, highly encourage getting outside of your block and realizing that life is definitely bigger than the neighborhood in which you reside.
I think our dad definitely established that one, as we already mentioned this episode, and we talked about it a bit last episode, just the importance of traveling. Certainly his military background allowed him to be a world traveler, and our grandparents instilled travel in her where they never even got on a plane. Our grandparents on our mom's side, they spent every second they could in the car on the road doing road trips. And so that was a staple for our mom, that she constantly took us both on, local road trips. We would travel throughout, the state, throughout different states as much as we could. So travel has always been a big part of our upbringing and our life. But there are some specific moments for me that were kind of life-changing when I think about exposure leading to expansion.
Right.
And it started when Mom, every spring break when I was in high school, and this really came from you too, bro. Once you left Kansas and went to Florida to go to college, and it was hard for Mom, she really wanted, because she's such a homebody, she was only child, staying close to home has always been really important for her.
Right.
But she married a man who obviously is a world traveler. So he was very, adamant about us going beyond if it was our choice. So I know it was hard for Mom when you left, when you decided to move, and not only leave, but going from Kansas to Florida. It's not like you went to Oklahoma.
Right.
It's not like you went, nearby that she could get you in a couple hours. You moved to the other side of the country.
Yeah, I moved to where she'd have to save up before she just pop up on me.
Like y'all got to plan your visit. You can't just show up. And I never knew how sad she was about it, until after you were gone. And by sad, I just mean certainly proud of you, but just worried, like any, parent has a degree of worry. But it also pushed in her the need to make sure that I was also thinking broader, regardless of what our choice was. So for her, that translated into, let's do these road trips every spring break.
Okay.
And so every spring break, she and I and my godmom, Miss Mac, we would all get in the car and just drive somewhere. And we did that, for like 4 years straight. But one of those spring break trips, we drove to Florida to visit you.
Right.
And once we got there, you gave us this ultimate tour of all of Tallahassee, and shout out to anybody
the big city
Tallahassee, right? Shout out to anybody who is Florida State Seminole, if you're a Rattler, even if you're TCC, because listen, Tallahassee Community College is nationally recognized.
Absolutely.
And it was an amazing community college. So obviously that's a college town, and my brother made it his business to give, and I'll say just to be nice, to give us the full tour, meaning our godmother, Miss Mac, and my mom, but he was really absolutely focused on me as a sophomore in high school. And so he wanted me to see all aspects of Florida State. Now, I am certain this next little nugget will come up throughout our entire podcasting experience. We have a very vocal and clear debate about Florida State versus FAMU.
I don't think it's a debate.
Don't even try it. Just let it go, because we're not going to give any second to this outside of what I'm about to say. Dre is a Seminole. I'm a Rattler. And so he easily could have just never exposed me to all of the beauty and amazement of Florida A&M University. So I'll always be in debt to him for, not being selfish and one-sided and saying, I will show you all of Florida State University and I will neglect you and not allow you to see FAMU. But he did not do that. He made sure that he laid the foundation of FSU, but he made a point to say, now we have to go visit FAMU so that you can see that campus and see the differences. And I'm going to just be honest, you all, when I got to FAMU's campus, I was in love. And I've told this story to so many different people in different ways, but the core is I never knew that you could go to a college and see that many shades of beautiful Black people, African people, all walks of life, Black folks in America. And not even just that, but people from, our Latinx community. It was just a beautiful visual representation of the colors of life for me, and it blew my mind. I didn't know it existed. I didn't even know what an HBCU was. And my
Right.
brother in that tour educated me on the HBCU experience that he had, even that he was at FSU, but he would come over and talk about, what he had learned
Every
about
Friday.
every Friday who he met. I'm sure he dated some of the beautiful sisters on that campus.
Whoa.
Yeah. And shout out to all the beautiful women from FAMU, my FAMU Rattlers. You know what it is. But it changed my mind, not just about college life, because I also saw how amazing Florida State was. Huge campus, massive dorms, and just how it just eye-opening when you come in from, Wichita, we call it the Dub K, Wichita, Kansas, like complete
ICT.
transformation, right? Called Dub K. And so fast forward a year later, because that was at the end of my sophomore year. Now I'm at the end of my junior year, and I had actually had a really bad year. I had made some bad decisions. I had gotten myself in trouble in some relationships, calling myself being grown. And I was questioning my future. I was questioning my worth. I was questioning anything that had to do with the next steps for Anitra. And Andre had come home for a short visit. And he didn't know what I'd been going through for the last year. But I remember you, bro, saying, hey, how are those college applications going? Because here's the thing. It was already cemented in our journey from our parents and then passed down from my brother to me that college was not an option. You will go to college, right? So that was already in place. But because I was going through one of the worst stretches of my life growing up, I no longer could even see, right? I couldn't even envision my future because I was questioning my worth, And so my brother says to me, how are those college applications going? And that particular night, this is probably one of the worst arguments we've ever had. There's probably been 2 or 3, but this is one of them. And all I wanted to do was leave the house and go and hang out with friends who weren't going to do anything good, do some stuff that wasn't going to build for my future. So I could basically escape, so I could numb away, what I was dealing with and experiencing in my life at that time.
Right.
And Dre, flat-footed, firm as all get out, said no. Before you go anywhere, you're going to finish this financial aid packet. You're going to finish these applications because your future is at stake. At the time, I just remember crying, being frustrating, and just doing it to get it over with so I could, in essence, get you off of my back. But imagine the life I would have had if I didn't do it.
Sure.
Because in the moment, what you were trying to remind me was, Nikki, yes, what you're going through is bad. Yes, the decisions you made are not good. Yes, what you're feeling is real. But life is bigger than this block.
Yeah.
And I know right now you can't see beyond the block, right? You can't see beyond the pain. You can't see beyond what you're experiencing, but life is bigger than the block.
Yeah.
And if you can just take the steps to fill out this paperwork, if you can just start to push yourself in this moment, you will see FAMU again. You will see Florida State again. The vision that I, the seeds that I laid a year prior will sprout. If you can get beyond the block, if you can get beyond this moment.
That's good.
And I'm so glad that you pressed in on me because it was uncomfortable. But a year later, I was at Florida A&M University.
Right.
A year later, I was traveling to New York, thinking about colleges, right?
Yeah.
I was going on a year later, I had a full scholarship, right?
Yeah.
Like there are things that are coming out of that moment because at that moment, I was decided that I wasn't thinking about my future.
Right.
To be honest and transparent, I just wanted to get high. Just want to smoke weed, listen to music, not think about life, not think about the future. And here's the thing that's equally important about this bigger than the block and this exposure leading to expansion. It wasn't our parents that pushed that. It wasn't mom. She had been trying to get me to do the applications, right? But she's also busy working and trying to make sure things are good. It wasn't dad because our dad's stance is always, you got a mind, you got a brain.
Right.
Use it. You ain't using it. You want to go to jail? You want a life, don't you? It's like that uncle that has the barbecue. You want to eat, don't you?
You want to eat?
You want to fire, right? So his thing is, I'm not going to waste, word. Like I raised you to know where you should go.
I did my part. Now work.
I did my part.
So
now
you
got to step into it. But it was Dre that was trying to remind me of what I exposed you to. That's why he could come back. Even though he hadn't been there, and say, how are the college applications going? Because we already talked about this. You've already seen it. You already know the options, right? And that's what pushed me beyond the block. And so I was processing just this whole podcast and where we wanted to focus. And that to me was that key spark that reminded me that you've been exposed to it. So now it's time to expand. So I guess my question for you is, what are your thoughts on exposure to expansion? And, does there have to be some sort of initiation, something that kind of gets that exposure going? What are your thoughts on
So definitely, but I want to bring something full circle. So when we say bigger than your block, we're not saying leave your block. Because here's the beautiful thing. Yes, I ended up in Florida, going to Florida State, and then I moved to Charlotte and started working, and now I'm here in San Diego. But the thing I'm most proud of, because watch this, I understand our people more. I'm more proud of being from Wichita right now.
That's so good.
Like I love repping Wichita right now. But the only reason why I love repping Wichita because I've been exposed to other cultures and other regions, and I see what it's like to be a true country boy, not like South Georgia, North Florida country. I love them. Not like deep South. I love them. Not like the Northern Atlantic. Not even like the West Coast. I love them. There's nothing like being a Kansas country boy. And I wouldn't know the depth and the breadth of what it means to be a Kansas country boy if I didn't see Florida, California, North Carolina, if I didn't see Jamaica, Canada, if I didn't see Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, if I didn't see Dominican Republic. This is what it means when it says bigger than the block, so you can appreciate your block a lot more because you have a more in-depth idea of what's beyond the block. And so that's why we say bigger than the block, not leave the block, bigger than the block. But yes, to answer your question, I do believe there's got to be a spark. And the spark isn't always so. And let's look at the spark that you went through, the spark that I went through.
Sure.
It's oftentimes an irritant. Right?
That's good.
It's an irritant.
Yep.
Because my challenge to go bigger than my block or see things bigger than my block or move beyond my block is that there's an irritant that wants me to finally get out there and see it.
That's good.
And that's a pearl. Oh man, I'm so glad. Watch this. When you think of how a pearl is made in an oyster, the oyster has irritants that comes into its mouth.
Yep.
And as it is irritated more and more by the bed of the ocean or sand or grit and crud that's getting in, the more it starts to secrete. And the more it starts to secrete, it then develops a pearl. It takes an irritant in order for you to get to the most valuable part of who you are. So if that irritant is the big brother saying, listen, I've been there, I showed it to you, let's go. Or if it's the irritant of, you know what, I'm bored here. There's just not enough to do here. Or irritant of, you know what, there's not any progression happening here. Or the irritant is looking at dad's old Encyclopedia Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica, and I was so mad we never had Q. Like we had all the letters except Q. Like we didn't have Google.
Remember we didn't have
internet, but we didn't have Q. I'm like, I'm missing so much of the world because we ain't got Q. I was trying to Qatar. I'm missing Qatar. Because we don't have Q, right? Like I don't understand. I don't understand what happened. But it's those things that are sparks, right? It's those things. And remember what I said. It's whether it's boredom or lack of progression, whatever it is. I'm not saying leave your block. I'm saying get out and get exposure to your block, so that if you should come back to your block, you expand your block.
Ooh, that's good.
You expand your block.
Good. Yeah.
And that's why, you got to get outside of your neighborhood, got to get beyond where you are. And it's okay to come back. I promise you it's okay to come back. But yeah, usually the spark is created by somebody or something by the form of an irritant. Something's got to be bigger than this. Something's got to be better than this. For me, it was I needed to do something during the summer because I'm always bored during the summer.
Right.
So I started running AAU track club.
Right.
And because of AAU track club, I saw probably about 13, 14, maybe 15 different states.
Right. Yep. Traveling. Yeah.
And then I made it to the Junior Olympics and we went to Orlando. And then and that was huge. But watch this. It's not even about the cities or going to Disney World. It was making it to the Junior Olympics and some of these other regional ones that I saw people from Mexico, from Canada. I saw people from Hawaii. I saw people coming from Europe. So I'm seeing these people who I don't see in Wichita. And so I'm getting introduced to cultures I've never had the opportunity to be introduced to. And so now I'm seeing humanity different.
Yep.
And now when I come back to Wichita, I understand people more at a deeper level. And that's why we had to be exposed.
Yeah.
We had to. We had to be exposed. And you're right. And Dad had a lot to do with that. He took us to the Grand Canyon. We already mentioned Las Vegas. He took us to California. Like you said, Mom took you on spring breaks. I remember we were in Disneyland. I remember we were in California, and we were on Venice Beach.
Yes.
And we were watching this homeless man tell jokes.
Yes.
And we will always remember because he made fun of Dad's S-curl.
Right.
And I mean, that was a
Jerry curl afro.
Right. Dad was just
full
loud.
six sprays.
Right. And I mean,
Every side.
He made fun of it for a good 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm looking at it like, I'm getting these laughs in. Because listen, without this comedian here, Dad, like, don't you talk about, right? He get a look. So I'm finna get these jokes. So I remember that so vividly. But then I remember seeing that same guy, and what's his name, Nikki? Michael Collier.
Yes.
Seeing that same guy on Def Comedy Jam.
Yep.
And so that brought about a different understanding of exposure. Here's a man who's homeless on the beach, and his exposure are people from all over the world visiting Venice Beach, and he's doing what God gifted him to do. He's doing his craft, which is comedy.
Yep.
Imagine how many opportunities that gave him to expand beyond the beach, and now he's on Def Comedy Jam.
Yes.
Right? Like, I don't know how that went, but there had to be somebody that heard him homeless and say, here's my card. Don't even know how you're going to call, but here's my card. Or I need you to meet somebody. What's your address? Don't have one. I'm homeless.
Right.
What's your phone number? Don't have one. I'm homeless.
Yeah.
Well, where do you live? I live all over the place because I'm homeless.
Homeless, yeah.
And yet that exposure expanded who he is so much so that, Nikki, he asked you to produce a film for him or something like that, right?
Yeah, we worked on an independent web project that he was producing years later. He's also one of the voices in The Princess and the Frog. Like, he has his own podcast. Like, that transformation from when we first met him to where he's now it's just uncanny. And it's so true what you say about coming full circle. He is one of the biggest advocates for homelessness and biggest supporters.
Right.
Sows into the community. And no question, all of his experiences, good and bad, absolutely, enhance and infuse the way that he presents his craft as a comedian, as a comedic actor. You can see the layers based on what he's experienced that also make his work so much more just tangible and real, authentic and good.
And so, to the point where when you look at him now, only a small percent of people would be able to look at him and say, I remember him as a homeless man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Most people see him and they don't see a homeless man. But if they hear his story, they still don't see a homeless man. What they see is someone whose exposure expanded them beyond their block.
Absolutely.
Beyond their block. And
he's known for his wardrobe, like his suits, his hats, like his cigars. Like, it's a whole visual transformation that has become a staple of his persona,
It's to me, it's if exposure got him off homelessness on Venice Beach, imagine what exposure or seeing more the world can do for me. And it's not about, getting from homelessness to a mansion. It's simply about opportunity and resources and just connection to different facets of life and different types of people. And oftentimes those connections are a blessing and can benefit and just allow you to grow as a person. Definitely.
That's so good. So with that in mind, does exposure, how can it benefit humanity? Because we're talking about our individual experiences, our experiences growing up, but are there ways that my exposure to different cultures, my exposure to different experiences can really broaden, my space as a human being, on this planet? How can we look at and expand to help humanity?
I remember the trip I took to Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. And I had been to other what we would call third world countries, right? And so whether it's Mexico or the inner parts of Jamaica or some of the inner parts of Puerto Rico, when I went to Dominican Republic, there was a difference. Some of the other places I've been that are considered third world countries, you could kind of see on their face that they knew it was third world, right? When I went to the Dominican Republic, and I went to Santo Domingo, so I got off of the Americanized areas. I got off the tourist areas, and I went into the heart of the country. I remember I was in this kind of city square, township square in Santo Domingo, and these bells rang, and these little elementary schools were letting kids out for lunch. And I remember then all of a sudden seeing these elderly men come out with their Spanish guitars and their little old stools. And they sat down and they just started playing and singing from like 4 different corners of this township square.
Wow.
And I remember all the elementary kids coming out. They heard the music and they immediately got with someone and just started dancing. Little boys were dancing with little girls. I mean, just dancing. You could not see on their face that they were in a third world country.
Right.
You couldn't see it. And you say, okay, so then how does that bring me closer to humanity? What I'm realizing then is there are some times where our thought process or our estimation or our assumption of meekness or meager means or just not having a lot is oftentimes dramatized because there's got to be a mindset that says, I might not be a millionaire, but I still have life. And I still have a great life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just those kids. It was teenagers. It was the teachers that were coming out. It was the people. It was the old men playing the guitar. You couldn't tell me that they felt third world.
Right.
Because I was staying in a hotel in this area, and it was an old kind of beat up hotel. And at 8 o'clock, there was no more hot water. It was cold. At 10 o'clock, there was no more electricity. It went off.
Wow.
So everything else from that point was battery powered that you had to work with, right? And for me, it kind of felt like an inconvenience day 1. But after I saw the people, day 2 and 3, it was a joy because what I started listening to were the sounds of humanity in a situation that says, you ain't got to drive a Range Rover. Can you be okay with nothing? Can you be okay with just the basics of life? Can you still have joy? Exposure to all kinds of people and humanity is what kind of gives you the joy of what it means just to be human. Because it broadens your frame of referencing life.
Yes.
So here I am, first world problems. I'm mad because they working on my internet on my building and I got to be down for about 5 or 10 minutes.
Come on now.
Right? But they've got nothing but joy on their faces when the hot water's done. They got nothing but joy on their faces when the electric goes out and they start lighting up candles outside and still enjoying themselves. It's an emotional intelligence issue.
That's good.
Exposing ourselves expands our emotional intelligence. Because that's the one connector we have to human existence. That's the one thing we have that says life is really not that bad. I just need a great connection with a great person, regardless of color or culture. I just need a great connection with a great person to have a great time in whatever circumstances life finds me. And again, I might not have their experience. Like I wasn't Dominican, or when we were in Beijing, I'm not from China, or when we were in Mexico, I'm not from Mexico. So I might not have your experience, but my exposure to your life and your ability to show this level of emotional intelligence that most Americans don't have, that most people don't here, and we're in first world situations don't have, it makes me more emotionally intelligent.
Right.
And it begins to define me as having this ability, which focuses my perception differently. And therefore my expression of emotion of what I'm going through in life, I can adapt and it's more accurate to what's true. So now when I go back to Wichita, or I go back to this place, Wichita, where this place where I once said was boring. No, I start looking at the people. The people aren't boring. The people we can connect with and just have a great time. If all we do is get someone's garage and watch the Cowboys play, because that's what everybody in Wichita loves,
Right,
Cowboys.
right.
So watch the Cowboys play. It's the connection that takes away the irritant of not liking your block, but it's the connection also that expands the relationships you have right there on your block. When you expose yourself to different cultures and humanity, it's your emotional intelligence that's always going to expand. And when you can expand your emotional intelligence, you just facilitate thought better. You regulate your emotions better. You're not just stuck in yourself, but you're also understanding people better, and knowledge, emotional knowledge just grows. And now you're better for humanity when that happens.
That reminds me of the one and only cruise that I actually took. I think right out of grad school. But so again, same thing. Some of our Wichita friends, we decided we wanted to do a girls trip, and so they were in Wichita, Kansas. I was in. I just moved out to Cali. No, I was finishing Cali at my school here, and went on this cruise. And everything you're saying rings so true, because the experience that I had, and I can't remember exactly where we went, but some of parts of Mexico. It was one of those cruises that it's really designed to champion capitalism and champion wastefulness. But I didn't know until I went on it. But when we would get off of the cruise ship, because so much of what you do is in the safety, and that was the first mindset, Jay, is that it's like, you want to travel outside of your country, well, go do a cruise because you'll still be safe. Like even just this mindset of the cruise ship is going to protect all of your first world amenities and your first world necessities. And you can always run back to the cruise ship. But I remember after the first day, once we arrived to our first stop, I wanted to have that cultural experience. But even then, these were these kind of curated tours that were still very, just had the American processing on them, we'll say.
Yeah.
And as I got out and started to see the people in the community, two things hit me. One was, next time I travel, I'm not going to, and that's why I've never done a cruise again. Not knocking all of them, obviously, but I know that the way you really experience, if you truly want to experience, another community, another culture, and you actually want to sow into and actually use your money wisely to help the people who do need the tourist industry as a livelihood. I realized I didn't understand that, so I missed it. So the money that I did spend, I was spending it the wrong way. It was benefiting, a larger corporation, whereas I could have easily gone into the community and purchased things there and bought local and supported and learned more. And so it definitely changed my mindset, but it had to come through, I think it was Carnival. It had to come through this cruise line because I didn't know any other way. And so now when I plan to travel out of the country, and that's the beauty of, again, Airbnb and all these other things that have now emerged that we didn't have, at that time, that allow you to take your money and sow into the communities and sow into the people locally and also then you can glean, as you're saying, you can glean and learn and see the experiences. And that's what I did see when I got out into the community while I was doing this cruise, that how the people lived and how much that my resources could support their livelihood, but how much they could teach me as well about a different culture, about a different community. And it was just sad that so much of our time and money was spent on all the activities on the boat, which how foolish is that, to take the time to take 5 or 6 days away from your country and spend 70% of that time on the boat, drinking, gambling, dancing, whatever those things are, as opposed to the blessing of God's green earth and all the beautiful people out there and getting out to know that. So it transformed my mindset, as you're saying, to understanding there's so much more to see, and don't allow, your limitations based on how you were raised or what you think is true to rob you, from learning so much more. So I definitely agree with that. So what about some of these cultural transformations that can happen with exposure? Like, we're talking about humanity on a larger scale, but what can we learn culturally, that having exposure to different cultures that can, make us better people?
So to me, that kind of dips into another area of intelligence. So whereas exposure for us it expands who we are emotionally. Exposure to different cultures then expands your cultural intelligence, right? And that's so needed in the world we live in today, where it just kind of feels like we're in this race war, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world right now. There's a race war happening, and it's not getting it's getting more tense. And what I'm finding is those who are on kind of this side of people of color, regardless of the color, they're the ones who are more culturally intelligent. Right?
Absolutely.
And the reason why they're more culturally intelligent, because they realize that if I embrace a different culture, and I do that through traveling or through experiences with a different culture, then I understand what it means to be a part of a community, a larger community, bigger than your block. And so, yes, I've got to be exposed to different cultures because we have a bigger community at stake that's bigger than your block. So if I'm culturally aware and I'm culturally accepting, then it can break down the cultural barriers. And then when I'm interacting with people of different backgrounds, I've now gotten rid of some of the cultural walls that we're seeing in life right now.
Sure.
And so we've got to not just enlarge our emotional intelligence, we have to expand and enlarge our cultural intelligence. Then we can see the bigger picture, which is a larger community of people. If we don't see that the world is going to continue to see different cultural backgrounds and people groups all over the world, then we're missing the opportunity to go ahead and break down those cultural barriers so we can extend a hand of friendship rather than a palm face up saying stay back, which, I mean, that's pointless. There's not going to be a single race after a while. At this point,
right.
You're not going to see just 100% black people, 100% white. No, that's not finna happen. After a while, everybody going to be mixed.
Absolutely.
Everybody's going to be mixed. So let's get ahead of the curve and just realize that let's get ahead of the curve so we can become one cultural community. I remember when we were in Beijing, and 2 times this happened to me. The first time I didn't know what was going on. The second time I understood, and there was a different response. The first time, what happened is at our table, before we even ordered our meal, this lady brought this porcelain large cup with hot water in it. And they brought it for the table. So I'm looking at it. Daniela's looking at it. Corinne's looking at it. Corey's looking at it. And they brought it to other people that sat down. We just kept looking at our cups, waiting on them to bring us tea bags and water because we thought it was for tea. Finally, after 5 families have sat down, the waiter won't come back to our table because we haven't done what was culturally appropriate. So this lady, she had to be in her 80s, comes to me, taps me on my shoulder, and does this gesture to tell me to dip my hands in the hot water. I need to wash my hands. And then pick up the towel, which was laid that they put right next to the hot water. Why I couldn't figure this out, I don't know. Pick up the towel, dry up my hands, then I might get to eat. Now I'm like, I done got hangry and parched because I'm like, where's the tea? If you ain't gonna feed me, give me some tea. So she did that. I find that they all laughed at me, but they looking at me the same way I'm looking at them. We finally washed our hands, and within 30 seconds after drying them off, the guy came up and was like, "What would you like?" I was like, so the second time, right, that's how I felt, like I was a leper. So the second restaurant we went to, as soon as they sat it down, all 4 of us was dipping. Johnny dipping. We were dipping. Came out with my pinky was scalded. And I was like, I'm finna watch. I ain't finna go hungry. I know that much. And it was, but the response was different too. So the first time, an older lady had to come and help me because I was looking foolish. The second time, the tables around us smiled and were like, oh, yeah, they know what they doing. Well, and it was a welcoming smile. And before you know it, they were talking with Corinne and Corey in Mandarin, and they were having a good old time. That's because we tore down that barrier. We understood more culture. Yeah. And when you understand more culture, people are more connected. Absolutely. And so, yeah, we got to raise our cultural intelligence. Absolutely.
It reminds me of our mom, and I always give our mom so much credit for the diversity in her friends.
Yes.
I'll leave this. I'll make this short because it's another podcast. But after elementary school, I tend to primarily select friends that look like me, went to
Yeah.
church with me, had the same background because of an unfortunate experience that I had with a
Sure.
white friend prior to. But our mom she's been through all sorts of things where racial concerns are in
Mhm.
place, and she's always still selected friends just based on true friendship, people she genuinely liked, they genuinely liked her. So I know you remember Carol Unimark, who
Yeah.
to this day is still one of our mom's closest friends. They still
Yeah.
talk via
Yeah.
phone. I believe Carol might be late 70s, almost 80. Our mom is 70, and so they still talk maybe once a week now.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mom told us an amazing story that is life-changing in terms of thinking of the cultural impact that it can have on each other. So she and Carol were going to a restaurant. Now, we were raised in Kansas, and that's where,
Right.
they met each other. Small town outside of Wichita. And if you know Kansas, there's definitely some issues where it comes to race relations.
Outside of Wichita, you in
Outside of
Kansas.
Wichita, you in
You in
Kansas.
Kansas.
Middle America,
Yeah.
Bible Belt, and all the things that you guys can kind of think of.
Grand
in that regard.
Wizards.
Thank you. He's just being
Tell the
nice and
truth.
direct.
Tell the
There you
truth.
go.
Grand
Transparent.
Wizards.
And so Mom and Carol were out, and I think they were just doing some shopping at like maybe some of those distant yard sales or some sort of event that they were out hanging out as friends, and they decided to stop at a restaurant to have lunch. So Carol picks a restaurant. She pulls up, parks. She's getting out of the car, and our mom is sizing the joint up.
Right.
She's looking at the place.
Yeah.
She's looking around.
Mm-hmm.
And Carol stops and is like, well, Laura, you coming? She's like, I don't think I should eat here.
Mm-hmm.
And Carol's mindset is like, what do you mean? So Mom says, okay, let me just go inside. She goes inside and from the door looks back into the kitchen. And in the kitchen, she sees an all-black cooking staff.
Right.
Which is the only reason why she was willing to actually stay.
Right.
And have lunch. So they stay and have lunch. And I think the moment maybe was lost on Carol at that time.
Yeah.
But here's what's interesting. So that was probably like the 80s or something. Here's how it comes full circle. When the George Floyd, murder happened and all the civil unrest as it should have been happened, who do you think Carol calls when she's trying to now grapple with what we're talking about? Cultural differences.
Yeah.
She calls our mom. And I think her church was reading the book White Privilege. And it was she was having trouble with it. Carol was having issues. She was having difficulty understanding what white privilege is, if it exists, how she felt about it. But she knew she had a safe place in our mom to be able to have the conversation. So here's this incident that happened, 20 some years prior. She can now safely talk with our mom about it to get more of an understanding. And that's exactly the story that our mom tells her. She says, you remember when we were doing such and such and we stopped at that restaurant?
Mm-hmm.
And just in retelling that story, it clicked for Carol.
Right.
And she said, I never understood why that was an issue for you.
Yeah.
Her thought was, this is a restaurant. We can just sit and eat and let's just go.
Right.
But as she's now expanding, because she's being forced to be exposed to what's happened to so many, people of color and Black people in this country, it clicked for her.
Right.
And she started to, process, what white privilege is and how she was able to benefit from that.
Yeah.
And that led to other conversations that, from them teaching together. And so the isms that sometimes we have, our own prejudices, our own, and we all have them. We all have them. This is not a situation of people of color or not, we all have our isms. We all have prejudice. We all have things we have to overcome.
Right.
But when you are exposed to people from different cultures and exposed in a genuine way, not that surface, not that tokenism, but actually, learning different cultures, learning different people, spending time listening, asking the right questions, absorbing, then absolutely you're going to eradicate so many of those isms. And we watched that with Carol. And now it came some 20, 30 years later, but she still had a safe place. And so I really commend our mom for having just the heart, the fortitude, the patience to just be a genuine friend
Right.
Because many of us wouldn't be able to. Many of us
Right.
would have cut ties, would have cut things off. And our mom never took it to heart that way. She said, this is my friend. Maybe she doesn't understand this experience from me, but we're still friends. And, she took it with stride. And then even years later was still willing to be open and allow her to ask every question and to listen so that she could help her grow and help her, transform in the way that, she chooses to. And I think it's just so important that you have the open mind. We all have an open mind that says, I'm going to be willing to step into spaces that maybe I don't understand, I don't recognize, I'm not comfortable with, and trust that while it might be uncomfortable, there still can be good that comes out of it. And know that we're not perfect. And so when you're willing to step into spaces that are unfamiliar, then you're also willing to say, I trust that I'm going to grow. I trust that I'm going to experience something. And sometimes the exposure is just to know what not to do. Like learning doesn't have to be new in the way that, I wasn't aware of this. Learning is, okay, that confirms that's not the right way.
Sure.
That confirms
Absolutely.
that doing that is not what I should do.
Absolutely.
And anytime we're talking about cultural things, there's always going to be something that is not the right way. But
Not the right way, right.
So it brings to this next point that I want to kick to you is exposure a choice? Like, do you have to actively be intentional about seeking out exposure, beyond just what might naturally come to you through the day-to-day life experience?
So let's go back to the example we just had with Carol and Mom, because there's a huge message in there that's a totally different angle. It's because of exposure. Carol says to herself, I'm having trouble with it, but I know someone who I can talk to.
Absolutely. Yep.
See, that's the angle that's missed sometimes on both sides of exposure. See, it's easy for people of color to say, well, hey, white people just need to understand.
Right.
But there's another side. If they choose that they want to understand, can they come to you
that's
and
good.
ask? Or are they going to be met with, go figure it out? Go figure it out. So see, that's the beautiful part that's the full circle part. Of exposure and expansion, because it's not just that we got to get beyond our block in order to kind of see what else is out there in the world, but also exposure leading expansion is about self-expansion. So that's where Carol comes in. Carol says, I'm going to go beyond my block. And what's beyond my block? I need to talk to this expert. I need to talk to someone who welcomes me to have the conversation, not looks at me and says, figure it out on your own, or looks at me with disdain. So part of self-expansion is being able to help provide explanations for people with, explanations for the initial attraction to want to know more, explanations because what we want to do is avoid the decline in world relationships, the decline in cultural relationships, the decline in satisfaction of life, because you cannot wake up today and not get hit with another culture a different culture than your own. There's no way you can wake up.
Not today.
And say, I'm only going to see and interact, or I'm only going to be influenced or impacted by my own culture. There's nowhere you can go right now. No time you can go right now where you're not going to have to deal with another culture other than yours. And I don't care what your culture is. So we've got to expose ourselves for our own self-expansion, and not just the expansion of our block or knowing that there's a bigger world, but self-expansion. Because the theory, or theoretically speaking, people enjoy expanding who they are.
Good. Yes.
Theoretically speaking. If you could get rid of the isms, you actually enjoy expanding your cultural knowledge if you can get rid of the isms.
The isms, yeah.
But you got to get rid of the isms. And once you do get rid of the isms, then you are able to have a more enjoyable life, more enjoyable close relationships with people. You'll have a better self-concept, because life is complex. People are complex.
Yep.
Isms try to take away the complexities.
Yeah.
Isms try to say it's this way, and this is the best way. This is the best people. This is the best situation.
Black and white.
No. Black and white, right? But life is complex. People are complex. More exposure, more expansion means that I can enjoy the complexities, not be threatened by them. So yeah, exposure is a choice. Carol instituted that choice. Carol illustrated that choice right then and there. I'm reading this book I'm having a hard time dealing with, but I know someone who can help me.
Yep.
And she goes straight to mom.
Yep.
Because mom is the one that can. And then, so then is it intentional? Absolutely. Because when you realize what close relationships, when you realize what exposure can do, you realize it opens your world up. Now I say to myself, I need my world open more. I need my world open more. And it's not a specific opening. It's just simply say, I want more. Like, think you realize all the places you've been. Is there something inside you that's saying, I want to go further? I want to go more. That's that. I went to, so look at my route to Tallahassee, me and Kaylin. Shout out to Kaylin, who actually still lives in Tallahassee, by the way.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
We say we're going to go to Daytona Beach. On the way to Daytona Beach, we see a sign that says Florida State next exit. I don't even know why we wanted to go see Florida State. But we go to Florida State, big, beautiful campus. And then we see this woman walk by.
Of course.
When we saw that woman walk by, we went straight to the registrar's office and got us the general bulletin and an application. Because we ain't ever seen nothing like that in Wichita. Right. So we went, this where we, and then we still went to Daytona. We could have packed up and went home from there. But we was like, Florida got more. I want more. I want more exposure. Oh, Tallahassee was great, but I want more. I want more exposure. And so
he's so aggressive with it. More.
That's the intentional part. That's that's what intentionality will do. It'll say you want more than what you receive. Because listen, we could have stopped and been like, good trip, Kaylin. Good trip. Let's go back. We know what we're doing. But we was like, no. There is more.
And I think you moved shortly after that, too.
Oh,
I remember you coming back from that trip, and it was a wrap.
Let me tell you something. I might have worked two more months in the summer, saved my money. And see, this was before we had cell phones and there was no internet.
Absolutely.
So I packed up yellow and I drove and the yellow bucket.
It died. The banana, right? We call it the banana. And it made it to Florida and died.
It made it to Tallahassee.
Right.
It wasn't going past Tallahassee. That's in the panhandle for y'all that don't know. It made it to Tallahassee. And I was like, yeah. Thank you. All I knew was I was going to Florida State. That's all I knew. And I had
exposure.
Yeah, that's it.
Exposure.
That's it. So no, you got to be intentional. And yes, it is a choice. Again, Carol's the choice. Me and Kaylin saying, let's see more than just Tallahassee. That's the intentionality. And that's what exposure does. It shapes your identity and it provides you with human shared resources. Right? So now the next time I'm going to Daytona Beach for Black Beach Weekend, I'm with people who I didn't know. And we're like, let's carpool. And, and so now it's me, Kaylin, and like 3 other people, shared resources.
Low-key recruitment.
Listen. Oh, yeah. So no, it's definitely a choice. It's definitely intentional. But it opens up your world.
Yeah.
And it gives you self-expansion, better knowledge of what's happening in the world. I think so many people, by not exposing themselves, live a sheltered thought process.
Yeah.
And it's so the opposite of self-expansion is self-constricting. And so there's some people who want to live a sheltered, I'm going to constrict because I don't want to understand. Yeah. I'm not trying to understand. This is the way I've always dealt with it. My block is my block.
Mm-hmm. Or it appears too hard to understand. The work I have to do. I don't want to put in the work to do it. I want to add one thing here and unpack a little bit more before we move to transformational perspective.
Okay.
Because you've done such a great job with just explaining kind of, what happens when we're not exposed, what it can open up doors. But what if someone's listening, bro, and this, I'm going to tap into your pastoral and your doctorate here.
Oh, Lord.
What if someone needs to know how? Like maybe give us 2 or 3 simple, practical steps of if I'm in a space where I'm like, well, how do I start exposing myself? I haven't had the experiences that you and Anitra have had. I didn't have people, my parents didn't travel. I don't see it. What are maybe 1, 2 just quick, easy, practical steps that you can say, try this or do this, and that's going to start to open up some of that exposure? What do you think would be some things people could do?
I had a friend in high school. His name was Jacob. For the life of me, I can't remember his last name right now. He was, Chicano, like Mexican. And every day he came to school, his shirt buttoned all the way to the top, Chuck Taylors when I didn't even know they were in style. And Jacob had a very guarded, ready to fight disposition to everybody except Mexicans.
Yeah.
So to blacks, to whites, to Asians, he was ready to fight everybody except Mexicans. He felt like it was Mexicans against the world. He ended up sitting next to me in a class, and because of Mom and her diverse friend group, I didn't see him as Mexican, but I knew he saw me as black.
Yeah,
right. You know what I'm saying?
I do, absolutely.
And so I was intentional because I didn't want to have a problem with him. So I was intentional in just being friendly to him. Yeah. And before you know it, we were laughing, and before you know it, we would see each other in the hallway outside of classes, and we would hang for a minute. Before you know it, I was asking him, what's your schedule look like next semester, and I tried to get a couple of classes with him.
Sure.
All of a sudden, Jacob started talking to black folk.
Wow.
And I started, and I never saw him with any Mexicans in our school because there weren't a lot then.
Sure, yeah.
My high school didn't have a lot then.
Right.
And the ones that were there, you could tell they had already been Americanized, so to speak. Sure, like I knew he was from Mexico, and he was he was gang level Mexican. Mexico gang level.
Yes,
was where he was.
Which is different, right? Absolutely.
Which is totally right. So he didn't hang with anybody, and he had a couple of moments where he was ready to fight with some of the local gang members that were attending our high school. But by the end of our junior year, because I remember he was there sophomore and junior year. I don't remember seeing him senior year, but by the end of our sophomore junior year, the people I hung out thought he was cool, and they welcomed him in.
Right.
And that welcome was through me, but I don't look at it like I'm this savior. I just simply look at it like I needed to step outside of what I know and get to know something different. In this case, someone different.
Yep.
It didn't take money. I didn't have to plan a foreign trip.
Teach.
I didn't have to save, I didn't have to, rearrange my high school schedule.
Right.
Right. I didn't have to make plans for a vacation. I just simply said, in the block where I am, here's someone who's different. But what we have in common is community. And I learned a lot about the country of Mexico from Jacob. And I learned a lot about how those native to Mexico viewed Americans. And I learned a lot about how to develop trust and break down barriers.
Wow.
It didn't take money.
Nope.
It just simply took choice, intentionality, and simply realizing that my emotional intelligence had to rise up. My cultural intelligence had to rise up. It does not take much. And then watch this. Out of that relationship with Jacob, I learned about Dia de la Muerte, the Day of the Dead.
Yep.
And so then as I get older, specifically when I get here to San Diego, and there's this massive celebration for that day,
yes.
I went to it.
Yep.
I went to because I knew about it from high school.
Understand it.
And I went to it. And when I tell you, when I tell you because of my knowledge of it, I was more welcome in that environment than I ever been welcome, just kind of curiosity looking at it like what's going on over there. And then that's it. Right. And because, what I've heard. So again, sticking with that example, what I've heard here for people who don't even know what it's about, they say, why are they celebrating the dead? And I say, well, we have Memorial Day.
Right.
And you don't even see the connection.
Right.
No. What you see is a cultural difference.
Right.
And you assume it's something.
You don't understand the visuals.
Exactly.
You don't understand what you're looking at.
Exactly. You don't understand what and so it's as simple as saying, wait a second, in the block where I live, what's not like me, but it's still in my community.
Yeah.
Well, then let's expand. Let's get exposure and let's figure it out. And it's a person or it's a place. Maybe there's an Ethiopian restaurant on your block and you're not Ethiopian. Yeah. Go. Try the food. Understand the culture that backs the food, right? So that to me, it's just that. It's look at your block. What's not like you? Well, go get exposed to it. Stop walking right past it.
Right. I think my experience, what I would say to this notion of where do you start or how can you continue to expose for expansion is asking different questions. I'm blessed to be able to teach, and I definitely teach in diverse communities. And I noticed that so many students that come from different cultures have had to come up with nicknames for the professors and the teachers to pronounce, right?
Yeah.
It's like, because it's a struggle. And I understand, both sides of the coin where, if someone butchers your name over and over again, I mean, my name is Anitra, but I can't tell you how many people call me Anitra and Arnishra. And, and it never, bothered me. Right. But in terms of how I have been intentional about expanding and trying to grow, when, my students, if they have a name that I can't pronounce, before I'll even allow them to say, well, my nickname is this, or just call me this, I will ask them, will you help me work on this? I won't get it right necessarily right now, but can you make sure I pronounce Josue properly?
Exactly.
Can you make sure that you just work with me? And that then goes into what does your name mean and who named you? And you get to learn so much more about these human beings, these individuals.
Yeah.
And so that's one way that I started. It was just, I don't want to call you the nickname, but I also don't want to butcher your name. So if you'll work with me, I promise you, I will get it. I'll be able to pronounce it. And I work on, and that's not, just Latinx, it's Asian students, it's African students, it's, learning how to properly pronounce people's name as part of their culture and learning more about them and what their names mean.
And don't be afraid to make a mistake while you're learning.
Yes.
Because I can't tell you how many people pronounce Karen, and they have to come out Karen. And Karen pleasantly says, actually, it's Karen. Yeah. And they'll say, oh, I'm so sorry. And so don't be afraid to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Learning. Don't be afraid to, just don't be afraid to make a mistake. Learning, try to learn, but you got to be intentional. I think that's another part of being intentional is understanding you're going to make mistakes. In exposing, because you're going to expose yourself to something you don't know. But once you learn it, you're so much better as a result. So.
And when you know better, you do better, right?
Amen. Amen to that. Amen. Well, now let's get to this transformational perspective because
there's always a counter.
There's always a counter, right? There's always a counter to what we're saying, and the counter is usually something that you think you're doing it right, but no, you're not. You're not. So,
Still wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so this week we looked at folk on social media providing pictures of that make it seem like that they've been exposed. So Nick, you've seen those on Instagram and pictures of places they ain't never been.
Hashtag living my best life.
Right. I mean, like, you lie. You can't even pronounce Poconos. Talking about I had a great time at Poconos. You can't even pronounce Poconos.
Where is that located?
Right. You see the watermark at the bottom of the image, like Getty Images. Man, come on. You downloaded that from National Geographic. Talking about
Photoshop.
I had a great time on Safari. Like, really? Where was this? I don't understand why you just just stop. Because the idea there is you cannot live through other people's experiences.
Sure.
That's not going to expand you. That's not going to expand you at all.
Nope.
And then the other thing is, and this, I'm sorry, go ahead. Let me let you talk, and then I'm gonna bring another side to this. That's actually detrimental to society.
Absolutely. I was just going to say social media really traps us too.
Yes.
In terms of exposure, that we can get so comfortable living in that digital virtual space and fool ourselves into thinking, I am exposed.
Right.
I am going to use this YouTube to make this authentic something, and not to knock all sorts of access, right? That the internet, social media provides. But there's nothing like, actually engaging with people and going to a space to absorb, as opposed to just allowing, all things digital to be your only exposure. And I think because we're in such a, information age and all this digital technology and this access, which is amazing, and I wouldn't want to change it, it is easy to get trapped into thinking that this is the extent of what life is, and you can stay in the kind of the silo of your room, and only engage through this kind of digital world. It's almost like a bad science fiction film, or maybe a good science fiction film, to where we become, an existence that doesn't even, not only just not touch each other, but doesn't even actually see each other physically, that everything is just ported through this digital world. And I think we got a taste of some of that through the pandemic, in terms of how we can get to a place where we don't physically touch, we don't physically see each other. Everything is ported through Zoom and FaceTime and fans rather, at all these different places. So there's a fool's gold or a counterfeit that social media presents. That makes you think that you're being exposed to what life really is, but yet you're not.
And you see that's the detriment, right? Because if I ask someone, what do you think Africa's like right now? All they know is what the media shows them. What do you think the Middle East is like right now? All they're going to see is all they're going to know is what the media shows them. And they don't always portray the best images of some of these beautiful places. And as a result, the bottom line here is, if you don't expand, if you don't expose yourself, expand and grow, humanity dies.
Oof, that's good.
Because I cannot relate to you as a human being if you're different than me, if I'm not exposing myself. People relationships, cultural relationships, they die when we don't expose ourselves so that we can expand into humanity. We get to this point where people want to live kind of their humanity out through social media, but then socialization suffers as a result.
Absolutely.
And we cannot let that happen. So for all of you just, looking at all the Instagram pics you can see, Facebook pics, Twitter, whatever it is, you look, Pinterest, whatever you on, and you're saying to yourself, that's life. No, what that is a carbon copy of what someone else did. Life is when you get outside your door and live it.
Yes,
life is when you get out of your block and live it. That's life. And don't have that one day syndrome. One day I'll get there. No. Go. Do what you can do right now. Do what you can do to see more of this world right now. There's somebody in your life. So for Nikki, it was me. For me, it was just the irritant of being where I was. But there's somebody or something in your life that's saying it's bigger than your block. So go. It's bigger than your block. Well, listen, we gotta do our quick shots now.
Yep.
I saw this. I always try to bring something funny, but in this one is really thoughtful. I saw this meme. I believe it was on Twitter. It says, "Our brains are naturally wired to stop us from doing the uncomfortable things, and that's what kills expansion." It says, "Expand your comfort. Explore the world while you're still able. Meet new people. Try new things. If there's one thing that you should be afraid of, it's not the fear of missing out, but the regret of not trying new things out."
That's so good.
Yeah,
I
like
we'll
that
make
one.
sure that we post that. That's good. All right, and I have a quick round. The past couple episodes we were doing yes and no and. This time we're going to change it up a bit. And I was trying to play on, as you did, expansion versus compression, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if exposure could lead to expansion, but can some exposure also lead to compression?
Okay.
So what we'll do is I will read something off to you.
Okay.
And you can determine if you feel like that exposure can lead to expansion and maybe throw a few thoughts there, or if you're like, no, that's going to lead to some compression in your life, and throw a few thoughts there.
All
And these are
right.
kind of interesting and tricky. So we'll just do a couple
Okay.
and let me know what you think. Okay, so here's the first one. So we're questioning if you're exposed to this, does it expand you or does it compress you?
Okay.
So hiring outside help, like a cleaning lady, someone to do the yard work, to do tasks that you don't want to do.
Oh.
Hiring somebody, like cleaning lady. Do you feel like seeing that, being exposed to people who hire cleaning folks or hire yard folks,
Instead
or
of
people
doing
who are
their own
hired?
work?
Think about it this way, because a new trend now is hiring people to do all your Christmas decorations, right? Like literally people are like, I don't feel like getting a tree. I don't feel like decorating it. I don't feel like doing any of this. So I'm going to hire people. Is that expansion or compression for you?
So it depends. The whole Christmas tree idea, I think that's compression. There's a real joy in family getting together and like, let's go get this. But like my toilets, no, that's expansion. I'm helping someone else. Clearly. I'm giving back to the community. I'm giving back to the community because listen, if I don't hire someone, it's definitely compression. Because I like most black folk, I'm gonna spray my stuff on there, right? And then I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna let that sit. And 3 days later, it's still there. I'm the king of. I'm gonna let that sit. I'm gonna let that sit for a while. I done sprayed my shower with Clorox. I'm gonna let that split, and then within 5 hours, taking a shower with the Clorox on the walls. I'm gonna let that. Oh, it's cleaning itself off now.
Self cleaning, right? Those bubbles sliding down, so you don't have to do it. I think I'm gonna add to that. I think it's so funny because when we have children, then it's definitely compression. Like you clean the toilet, right? I'm raising my children to be my cleaning people, right? I have to teach them.
That is expansion. These are life lessons. Listen, that's me passing my knowledge on to the next generation. That's expansion. That is not compression.
I disagree because boys don't clean as well as girls do. So
wait. That's not my fault. That you don't have a girl. Okay? So it's expansion in the Evans household. It's expansion.
Until they move out, then it's compression.
Right? Well, no, then I'm hiring outside of the house.
Right.
And
it's still expansion.
It's still expansion.
As long as we don't have to do it. Okay, next one. Let me see how I feel about this one. Okay, so expansion or compression. Flying first class.
I'm going to say expansion.
Sure.
Yeah, because the first time I flew first class, I actually was exposed then to, more amenities that come with paying more, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And so I learned value added things. I learned that space is a good thing. Right? I like
legroom.
Space. Legroom is a beautiful thing. Right?
Avoid cramps.
I learned that little curtain that they close so they can't see. That's a good thing. I like that. Out of sight, out of mind. The moment I can no longer see that crying baby in 34B, I don't hear that crying baby in 34B. And I realize it's just a thin piece of velvet. but I don't hear the baby in 34B.
And you start calling those in the back.
Listen,
peasants.
you know what I do here?
And you put your finger pinky up when you...
I hear my toes flicking back and forth as I'm twiddling my toes with all my leg room. That's what I hear. That's expansion. That's expansion.
Oh, that's comedy. I love it. Okay. Cursing in front of your children.
Oh, man. See, that seems like expansion, but it's actually compression.
Sure.
Yeah, it's because mom always taught me, and I think she did. She's an educator. So mom always said, you got to have a bigger vocabulary to further express what you feel.
Absolutely.
And so cursing in front of your kids, I think, is compression. It doesn't give them the opportunity to learn different words to express themselves. Now they're stuck with words that actually get them in trouble and words that get them expelled and suspended, instead of then being able to give words that are so confusing that people don't know you just disrespected them.
You just got them all the way together.
Right. Right.
And I brought that one up because I know, our dad, he cursed like a sailor. I don't think he curses as much now.
Not as much.
Yeah. Growing up, he cursed all, and our mom didn't curse. And so I learned that the hard way. As soon as I was cursing when I was a kid, and I was wise enough to not do it to get in trouble. Mm-hmm. But as I became an adult, I realized people respect you less. There's you literally change the label of the relationship. You change the way that the other people define your relationship. And so
Absolutely.
I always thought about that. All right, let's do another one. Here's a good one. Getting a credit card prior to the age of 18. Expansion or compression?
Compression. Wait, can you get one before 18?
So like parents could give one to their kids and things like that.
No, so that is expansion.
Okay.
Because, well, that's expansion if you have parents that can teach good credit management.
Sure. Yep.
Right? That's expansion. What is compression is a college student getting a credit card before they have a job.
Yeah.
That's compression because now you're teaching them debt and debt survival.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. This is one that I struggle with. This one, and I think it's funny. Witnessing your parents engaging in romantic activities or basically physical affection. Right?
Oh.
But you now, Dr. Evans, you know statistically, what do they say about that? That's how I feel too.
Now let me say this. It's expansion.
Yeah.
Affection is expansion because some of the difficulties we have now with some of our young men is they've never seen a father be a husband.
Sure.
They've never seen a man dote or be romantic with a woman. They've never seen a man open the door for a woman, hold her hand in public, romantically, kiss her on the cheek or the lips, whatever it may be, in a non-sexual way.
Yeah.
So because that's the problem, right? What we see is either no affection or we learn about sex. But what's the in-between? Well, there's no in-between. We don't see the in-between.
Yep.
And so I think it's important then, it's expanding when a young man sees, when both young men and women, when they say healthy marriage show healthy affection and romance, I think it's absolutely expansion.
All right. I know we got to round out here. So let me maybe do two more.
Okay.
Oh, how about this one? This one's everyone should own a gun.
Expansion.
I knew it.
Expansion. First of all, I'm from Wichita, Kansas. Okay. So it's not even just, I don't just believe in owning guns. It's, when you're born in Wichita, raised, I should say, in Wichita, I grew up in a time where I could go to Dad's closet, pull out his 12 gauge pump shotgun and literally just play with it in the room. Just play with click it, and his 6-chamber revolver, Smith & Wesson, and just be just all over the house. Click, 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 click. And it was like, cool. It was not a problem. It was not a problem. It's just what you do. God. So no, I believe, that's what you do. I think guns are a beautiful thing. I believe guns are, listen. I have no problem with owning guns.
I don't even have disclaimers.
There ain't no disclaimers. There ain't no disclaimers. Dad used to be like, son, this is how you load your shotgun. You load the first round with birdshot. You load the rest of it with buckshot. And I was like, well, Dad, I thought this was for hunting. He's like, no. The single barrel shotgun's for hunting. The double barrel pump one, that's for protection. And I was like, well, why do you do that? He said, well, the bird shot won't kill a man. It'll just burn his skin and it'll warn him, y'all leave my property. He said, after you do the bird shot, the gun goes Jamaican. Huh? Buckshot, 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 buckshot. Because that'll kill a man. Those will kill a man because they are meant to kill an 8-point buck. Kill a man. Like, you gave him a warning. He's still around.
Yes,
he's still around. Bob Marley. He's still around.
I shot the sheriff.
Right. And you.
All right, last one, and then we'll get to the final blow. Compliments are more effective than honest critique.
Ooh, man.
I know, it's tough.
Compression. We can gas people up with compliments. So compliments are a needed part of conversation. But if both are needed, compliment or critique, there's a way you can critique in love, and that will expand. But if someone needs a loving, I can't stress that enough, critique, that's more expansive if you give it than if you just give a compliment, because then they won't know that there might be something that allows them to grow. So therefore it's compression.
Yep, that they have halitosis.
Right. You can say it in a loving manner, like, I'm going to chew some gum. Would you like to chew some gum with me? Let's chew gum together.
I like Listerine.
Right.
Do you like Listerine?
Do you like Listerine? Yeah.
All right, that's going to wrap out our quick shot because we'll be here forever. Dre, what you got for the final blow?
So we're talking about exposure and expanding, and I just remember Corey and I going antiquing. Corey's my youngest, and she loves to antique. I didn't even know what antiquing was until Corey was brought into my life, and so we went antiquing. And she saw this 35 millimeter camera, old school camera, and she picked it up, and she was like, "Dad, how does this work? Because I don't see where I plug it to my iPad and download the pictures. I don't see where I plug it into my computer. I don't see where the Bluetooth is. I don't see how I can airdrop the pictures from here to my iPad, to the cloud, right?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, baby, because that's a old school 35 millimeter camera." I said, "The way it works is I opened up the back. I said, you put the film in here, and then you close the back. And then once you close the back, then you take pictures." So she said, "Well, how?" And I said, "Well, you look through this little lens, because the lens is what we call an exposure, and it shows you what you're going to take a picture of." And then I said, "And you make sure you take pictures of," because she wanted to buy it. I said, "Make sure you take pictures of everything, because that's the beautiful thing about this camera. You want to take pictures of sad moments and happy moments. You want to take pictures of when you're in a place that's beautiful, but don't be hesitant to take pictures of a place that's sad or hurtful." And then she said, "Okay, well, how do I know when it's done?" I said, "Well, it's done when the film is at its end, and it'll tell you, like this one will tell you got 35 pictures you can take. So it'll be done when you've exposed 35 frames of different emotions and of different things." She said, "Okay, well then what I do with it?" I said, "Well then you're going to take it to a film developer, and they're going to put it in a dark room so it's not overexposed. And they put it in the dark room, and they're going to develop pictures from it." And she said, "Okay, well, what happens then?" I said, "Well, then they're going to give you these pictures, and the pictures are going to remind you of good times and bad times, happy scenes, sad scenes." And she said, "Well, what else?" I said, "Well, they're also going to give you what's called the negatives." And she said, "Well, what are those?" And I said, "Well, the negatives are just in case you ruin the pictures." And I said to her, "Now your dad throws away the negatives, because he's never going to ruin the pictures that were exposed.
Good.
I'm going, and they're going to always be a part of my photo album, so I can always remember the emotion, remember the situation, remember the circumstance, remember what I learned when I was in that moment and it was exposed to that picture." So what I'm saying here is simply this: expose yourself to everything. The negatives, throw them away. You don't need them.
Good.
Remember all of the emotions, remember all of the cultural experiences. Get rid of the negative, because the negative is what establishes the isms, the racisms, the sexisms, the ageism. Get rid of the negatives and just hold on to the positive images that you were exposed to, and you'll be expanded as a human being. So that's my final blow on this ep.
Microphone drop. Boom. Love it. Excellent. Listen, we're going to round out. We went a little long today, but so glad you guys stuck it out with us. Just a gentle reminder, we are the Savage Siblings podcast, where we are brutally honest, relentlessly transparent, and unapologetically authentic. Please leave us your comments, your thoughts on all of our platforms. If you have thoughts on how exposure leads to expansion in your life, or maybe some exposure you wish you could unsee, right? Let us know about things you see that you wish you could unsee. Share that on all of our platforms. Huge shout out to Dwayne McClendon, post-production supervisor, sound editor. Shout out to Ronnie Maxwell Music, our music producer, music supervisor. And again, we thank you guys for joining us for Savage Siblings Podcast. Remember, don't go through life alone. See you next time.
See you next time.